German police are investigating a knife attack in which a man killed at least 3 people in the western city of Solingen. At least 8 other people suffered injuries, some of them life-threatening. Police have detained 1 person and are investigating a possible connection to Friday night stabbings, which happened at a crowded festival in the city centre. Authorities still don't know the assailant's identity or motive, but believe he acted alone. They've asked festival-goers to submit videos and photos to help with the investigation. So a lot uncertain at this hour. It looks like we can go straight over to the press conference where we're waiting to hear for more information on this attack. So many uncertainties at the moment, so much left up in the air.
Test 1, 2.
Let's have a little listen in. We should be getting the sound on that conference in a second from now. Okay, let's bring in Thomas Sparrow, our security expert, while we're waiting for that press conference to really start. It looked like it had been getting underway. But let's go through some of the details because, as I said, so many uncertainties. Can you bring any clarity at this hour? Anything that we've actually been clarified on from police yet?
Well, that clarity we are absolutely going to get from the press conference that is about to start, because there are certainly many open questions when it comes to what happened in Solingen. The main questions being who the perpetrator is, whether he acted alone, what the motivation might have been. There have also been reports, so we'll listen in.
Okay, let's listen in to what the Commissioner has to say.
Provide you with further information about the terrible occurrences that took place in Solingen. We want to share information about the police operation and about the state we are at the moment with our investigations, and also to give you a sense of the public prosecutor's take on things. Now, from our invitation, you will know that we had originally invited the mayor of Solingen, Mr. Kurzbach. He apologizes. He's unable to be here as he has other pressing engagements related to the attacks. I'd like to introduce the members of the panel up here in order in which they will speak. I'd like you to welcome the head of the Wuppertal Police, Mr. Röhrl, who will give you a few words of introduction to begin with. This will be followed by Mr. Fleiss from the Police Directorate in Düsseldorf. He headed the operations last night in the acute phase, directly after the attack was committed. He will be giving you some information about the police operation itself. And finally, Mr. Kaspers, as the head of the Terrorist Prosecution Center of North Rhine-Westphalia, who will give you a sense of the legal setting of the attack. Generally, I would like to say that after you have heard these statements, you will have an opportunity to ask some questions. We'll probably take all of your questions at once. So let us know if you wish to ask a question, and then we will bring you together with the speaker and you can deal with them afterwards. So I'd like to ask Mr. Röhrl now to begin. Thank you very much, Mr. Viehweg. Ladies and gentlemen, yesterday evening, a perfectly peaceful and happy celebration of the 650th anniversary of the city of Solingen's foundation ended in a brutal knife attack. People who were happily celebrated were killed. Many others were injured, in some cases severely. Now all of our citizens are upset by this, and so am I. My concerns, my worries, my condolences with those who have lost their loved ones, and I wish those who are injured a speedy recovery. The Düsseldorf Police Presidium is heading the operations. Wuppertal is supporting us and has thanked Düsseldorf for its support so far, which has been very professional. It's my firm conviction that the police are doing everything in their power to investigate this crime completely. Now, as the head of the police of Solingen, I would like to thank all of the police officers out there, but also the emergency services and the fire brigade and everyone offering counseling and support for what's happened in Solingen. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Röhl. I would now like to pass the floor on to Mr. Fleiss. I'm Thorsten Fleiss. I was the head of the police operations. This past night, the police operations continue. A Cologne colleague has taken over the head of operations for today. Now, the thoughts of the Düsseldorf police and the police in all of North Rhine-Westphalia are, of course, with those who have been murdered. And our thoughts are with their families. We are also very much wishing the best possible recovery for those who are injured. Now, I'd like to talk you a little bit through the operations. At 21:37, we had a number of emergency calls that we received in the Wuppertal police station that at the Festival of Diversity, celebrating the 650th anniversary of Solingen, that a male person targeted people at the festival with a knife and attacked them. The location was at the Frohnhof stage. North Rhine-Westphalia regulates the police leadership in cases of this kind, which is something that was categorized as somebody running amok. It goes to Düsseldorf, which is one of our largest police operations in North Rhine-Westphalia, and at 21:59, the Düsseldorf briefed the police forces in Düsseldorf, but also throughout North Rhine-Westphalia, and they took on the leadership then. Now, the police leadership team took this on and worked through this all night long with the other police forces, and this operation is continuing. We are carrying out search warrants, investigations, measures throughout North Rhine-Westphalia involving the law enforcement authorities throughout Germany. At the moment, the facts of the case are that we have 3 people who have been killed, a 76-year-old, a 56-year-old man, and a 56-year-old woman. There were 8 persons who have been physically injured. They are being treated, of which 4 of these persons are severely injured. The mental trauma of many of the other people who were at this festival is worth mentioning. A great deal of damage was done to them as well. In the early hours of the morning, there was an arrestment of a 15-year-old. At the moment, this person is being examined in the light of the attack. At the moment, we assume that it was a lone perpetrator, but we are looking at many different leads. Now, I said already that the investigation means that all of the law enforcement agencies and other agencies are involved in North Rhine-Westphalia, but we have involved the Federal Office of Criminal Investigation. At the moment, it's a major challenge to collect evidence and to hear witnesses in order to put together a picture of what happened. As soon as we have more details that are relevant to the public, we will be reporting again. At the moment, we would like to ask all citizens who have anything they think they need to report to contact us. We have a website. You can also upload videos or any images you may have. This is a much better idea than just spreading this on social media, because that's not very helpful in actually finding the knife attack suspect. Please do share any information you may have. We are compiling all of this information and hope to present further details to you over time. Now, the question of security in North Rhine-Westphalia is naturally important. We have increased our level of alert. We have increased the police presence in the federal state, and we are all very much focusing on other celebrations that are going on as well. Now, with reference to the legal side of the equation, the Prosecutor General will now talk you through that. Thank you very much. So I'll pass the floor now on to Mr. Kaspers. Ladies and gentlemen, I would also like to share my condolences with those who have lost loved ones and wish those who are injured a speedy recovery and a complete recovery. Now, the Terrorist Investigation Center, which I head in North Rhine-Westphalia, took on the public prosecutor aspect of this. We are investigating 3 counts of murder and 8 counts of severe bodily harm. We have not yet found a suspect, so we are investigating against an unknown suspect. We have not been yet able to understand a motive here, but we are assuming that a terrorist-motivated attack is possible. We cannot exclude this. Now, the media has talked about a 15-year-old who was detained. At the moment, this is merely to get information based on the witness statements that we've heard so far. We believe that the person talked to the suspect talked to the 15-year-old about potential reasons for the attack, but we do not wish to speculate beyond that. Now, as my agency, since last night, we have been in close cooperation with the Public Prosecutor General, who has seconded 2 members of their agency to us, and they will possibly be taking this on when we have more information. Now, the Victim Protection Scheme has a phone number, which I have to read out, 0800 001 2022, and I'll repeat it again, 0800 001 022, and this offers a counseling number. It's a hotline for people who experienced the attack and need support. So that's all from me for now. Thank you, Mr. Kaspers. I would suggest that you ask any questions you may have at this point. Perhaps you could just say who you are before you ask your question, possibly the media you work for, and tell us whether you are asking a general question or targeting your question to a particular member of the panel. I'll start here.
Aus ermittlungstaktischen Gründen können wir im Moment nicht darstellen, wo
For
die
reasons of
Untersuchungsmaßnahmen erfolgen.
strategy of the investigation, we can't go into too much detail here. Naturally, we are following up many different leads in our investigation here, and the situation is changing from minute to minute.
Also ich kenne die Detailbeschreibung der Bild kenne ich aktuell nicht.
I don't know the details that were described so far that you're referring to. We are pursuing a number of leads in this manhunt, but they are not firm enough for us to want to share them with the public yet.
In Absprache mit der Staatsanwaltschaft
We
können wir keine weiteren
have
Angaben
discussed
zu den
this with the
15-Jährigen machen.
Public Prosecutor General and cannot release any further details of the 15-year-old who has been detained.
Ich habe auch noch mal eine Frage zu dem 15-Jährigen.
I've got
Sie
another
sagten
question
ja
about
eben,
the
es seien
15-year-old as well.
nur das Nichtanzeigen dieser Straftaten.
You
Da
were
handelt es sich um
saying
diese Zeugin, die das
that
beobachtet und gehört haben
this
will. Ist denn bei den
15-year-old
Durchsuchungsmaßnahmen
is
bei ihm
not going
oder
to
der
be
Vernehmung von
prosecuted
ihm
as far
irgendwas
as you're
zu
aware
dieser
now,
Person
but let me
bekannt
just
geworden,
ask
beziehungsweise lässt er sich
whether
überhaupt
they've
dazu
revealed
ein?
anything about the person you are hunting for, or does the 15-year-old, has he revealed anything, this 15-year-old, to the person?
Einzelheiten wollte ich keine Stellung nehmen, deshalb sage ich auch
I
zu
am
dieser
afraid
Frage
I
nichts.
do not wish to
Aber es
say
ist ja
anything about this
elementar,
at this
ob
point
jetzt
in the
wirklich zwei
investigation.
Personen
Yes,
diese
but
Tat
it's quite
möglicherweise
key.
vorbereitet haben, davon
I mean,
wussten. Es war ja auch die
if there
Rede,
were
dass
two
mehrere Zeugen, die
people
sind ja auch im
who were involved
Internet
in
aufgetaucht,
this,
sprechen ja von
you know,
zwei
there are
Tätern,
people
sogar
in the
auch bei der Tat
internet, we
Ausführung
keep
sei
hearing
beobachtet
people
worden,
talking
die
about
sich
two
welche
people being
unterhalten
involved,
hätten. Da
not
gibt's keine
a
Anhaltspunkte
person
für, weil diese
acting
Zeugen
alone.
gibt's ja.
I mean, there are plenty
Ich
of
kenne
witnesses who
diese
saw
Zeugen
this.
nicht.
I must say,
Diese
says Mr.
Zeugen im
Caspers, I do
Internet,
not know these
das
witnesses.
Erzählen, kennen Sie nicht. Und die Frau
Well,
kennen Sie auch
the
nicht,
ones
die
in the
den
internet
Jungen
you don't
beschuldigt
know,
hat,
and you
sondern
don't know the
den
woman
Jungen
who
besucht.
accused
Wie
this
sind Sie denn auf den Jungen
young,
gekommen, wenn Sie
this
diese Zeugen nicht
teenager.
kennen?
I mean, it was this woman who
Ich kenne keine
told you
Zeugen, die
about
Sie
this
beschrieben haben, die die
15-year-old.
Tat, die zwei
I
Personen
have
bei
to
der
say
Tat
that
beobachtet haben.
I
Die kenne ich
do
nicht.
not know of
Die Frau
any
spricht nur
witness
von dem
who observed
Vortatverhalten.
these two.
Die
The woman
Zeuginnen,
just
die
talked
Sie
about the behavior
benennen,
before the
sprechen
attack.
davon,
Is that
dass
right?
Sie vor der Tatbegehung eine
Yes, we are assuming
Gespräch mitgehört
that there
haben.
was a
Okay, noch eine
conversation
Anschlussfrage zum Messer.
overheard before the
Kursiert ja
attack.
mal das Gerücht, ein Messer hätte unter einem Toten gelegen. Jetzt ist aber ja vorhin in Solingen ein Messer gefunden
Well,
worden.
we
Im
found
Bereich
a
eines möglichen
knife
Fluchtwegs,
in
so ungefähr 150
Solingen,
Meter entfernt vom Tatort
about
unter einem Gerüst. Können Sie denn dazu
175
was sagen, ob es
meters
mehrere Messer
from
gibt, die sichergestellt
the
wurden, ob man schon
area
sagen kann,
where
ob eins
the
das Tatmesser ist, wurde wirklich eins
knife
von einem
attack
Opfer
suspect
gefunden?
fled
Könnten Sie
the
das noch
scene
mal
of the
einordnen?
crime. Could you tell us a bit more about that? Do you think that is the
Aufgrund natürlich der
weapon?
Brutalität der Tat und auch der
Due to the
Komplexität der Tat
brutality
werden
of this attack and the
umfangreiche
complexity of the attack, we need to collect evidence that go far beyond ordinary crimes. So at the moment, we have an awful lot of attacks. We have found a number of knives at the scene, and we will investigate all of them and decide which can be associated to the knife attack and which can't. But there are many other types of evidence that we are collecting as well. Allocating a particular knife as the murder weapon is not something we can do yet.
OK, we'll leave it there. That was Regional Police in North Rhine-Westphalia holding a press conference. With me in the studio is DW security correspondent Thomas Sparrow to tell us more about what we've just been listening to. In reference, of course, to this knife attack in which 3 people were died. We heard a 76-year-old, 56-year-old woman and 56-year-old man. 8 being treated, 4 severely injured. Bring us up to date on more of the comments there we were hearing from those police commissioners and heads of operations.
Well, to be fairly honest, we weren't hearing all that much, so that we didn't get many details about what they're actually investigating. That's not surprising, fairly honest, because normally when these incidents occur, when these attacks occur, police want to keep their investigations private. They want to be able to carry out their work, yet at the same time, obviously, they have a responsibility to inform the public, and striking a balance between those two elements is difficult, and that is something that was clearly evident from the press conference that we just heard. There were plenty of questions about the person who was detained, about possible other people who were involved, about the knife or knives that were found on site. All these issues that obviously journalists are asking, that are important for the public to know. Authorities during that press conference were not necessarily giving some of the details that many people would have wanted. Nevertheless, it is important to stress that some basic details have been provided. For example, the fact that a 15-year-old was detained, that they're looking at a considerable number of different types of evidence, including several knives that came right at the end before we came to this talk, but that it's still basically too early to confirm to what extent this 15-year-old person was or wasn't involved in the attack, and also what the possible motivations were. These are still two questions that are very important in order to really put the pieces of the puzzle together and understand what happened in Solingen on Friday evening.
The 15-year-old having been arrested in the early hours of the morning, they mentioned, who was being examined. So far, it doesn't sound like a link has been determined. They assume again that it's a lone perpetrator, although they have been looking for more than one perpetrator from the messages we've been getting.
But that's also normal in these kinds of circumstances, that they normally look to all possible avenues before coming to one specific conclusion. It would have been strange at this point in the proceedings for them to say that they know for sure that it's only a lone perpetrator and that they're not looking into other possible people involved. So this really falls in line with other types of investigations where authorities say they have found one person, they're investigating to what extent that person was involved, but they're still looking at the possibility that other people might have been also involved. That also falls in line with the investigation on the possible motivation. And that's why, up to now, authorities have said very little about the possible motivation behind this attack.
And the public prosecutor saying there that he can't exclude it being having some sort of terror link.
That's particularly important, Ben, because there has already been speculation for a long time. It's also in line with other instances where as soon as something like that happens, you begin to see different comments, especially on social media, as to whether it is or isn't terror related. So the fact that the public prosecutor here states that they can't exclude it, but they can't confirm it, also basically gives a hint that they're looking at different possibilities when it comes to the motivation.
Well, police are still collecting evidence and witness accounts. They've put the state of North Rhine-Westphalia on an increased terror alert, or an increased level of alert, I should say, not terror alert. There's also an increased police presence in the state, and they're looking at other festivals that are taking place right now, so looking at all avenues and taking all precautions.